In this lesson, we look at the uses of radiation that you might not even know occur in your daily life. One very popular use of radiation is using radiation, of course, to kill cancer cells. So while hopefully you have not experienced this, you might know someone who has gone through radiation therapy. So radiotherapy is using radiation to kill cells. We talked about earlier how radiation can be harmful, how it interacts with biological material, especially ionizing radiation, which can destroy molecules, rip electrons off of atoms. Those electrons go through like little cannonballs through DNA, breaking the DNA up. So normally, radiation, of course, is harmful to cells. We don't want our cells to be irradiated. We don't want our cells to be damaged. But if those cells are cancer cells, right, harmful cells in the body, we want those destroyed. So by sending a beam of focused radiation through the body, you can actually kill the cells along that path. Of course, there's no radiation that only kills harmful cells and does not kill healthy cells. So what can be done is, and your book has an example image of this, the beam is actually rotated in 3 dimensions, so the tumor is always irradiated, but the surrounding material gets less of a dose. Of course, there's always a danger that this radiotherapy could create new cancer cells, but that risk is minor compared to the fact that you already have cancer if you're getting this treatment. Additionally, you can actually do surgery. So you can excise a tumor or put an incision in a tumor, insert a radiation disc, a radioactive material, into the tumor itself, and then close up the patient. Those sources, usually alpha sources, because alpha sources are highly damaging but weakly penetrating, kill the tumor from the inside outward. Additionally, what you might have experienced and not even known it is food irradiation. So how do you make food safe? Well, if you've done any canning or any type of making jerky or making home brew or whatever type of food creation you have, you know that bacteria can get into and contaminate your stored food. So how do you destroy that bacteria? Well, there are many different ways of doing that, including boiling or using a pressure cooker to increase the temperature to a point where bacteria can't really survive. But some bacteria can be very persistent. So one way to destroy harmful bacteria is to irradiate your food source. Imagine a can of, chicken. Well, if there's bacteria in there that could be harmful, what you can do is irradiate that can of food with radiation that does not leave residual radioactivity behind, like gamma rays or X-rays. That's just light. Or electrons, which again doesn't really make anything radioactive. You don't want to put radioactive materials in that decay into other radioactive materials, but using gamma rays, X-rays, and electrons, those ionizing radiation, right? A little electron goes through, like again, a cannonball, destroying the cell walls, the DNA, and the RNA of the bacteria, killing the bacteria. Now, this also kills the cells, of course, in the chicken or the plants, that you're irradiating, but those are dead anyway. I mean, the chicken cells aren't reproducing in frozen chicken, but bacteria can. So you irradiate the source, and through this irradiation, you kill harmful bacteria that is sealed up in that can of food. Now, we've probably all eaten irradiated food. The dangers, long-term dangers, are not really well known, but food poisoning in the short term, especially for those who are immune compromised, can be serious. So the short term doesn't seem to have any negative impacts, at least no observed negative impacts. The chemicals that can be created through this process when a gamma ray or an X-ray breaks up a molecule into a bunch of little pieces, that large DNA molecule or that large RNA molecule can come back together, of course, and make different chemicals. Those chemicals are not detectable. They're created in such small quantities that aren't really detectable, but there could be harmful consequences. We just don't know what the long-term consequences are because we haven't done this for very long. And people don't eat much irradiated food. So these are two uses for radiation: intentionally damaging cells, but in this case, either cancer cells that we don't want to live in our body or bacteria cells we don't want in our food, our stored food. So there can be some great uses for this radiation. In the next discussion, we'll talk about using nuclear processes to create energy.